Welcome to the WealthCare Webinar by BayRock. I'm Jim Munchbach and I'll be your guide. The purpose of this webinar is to help you learn how to get more for your money when you hire BayRock, either for investment management or financial planning or both. I'm really glad you're here, especially those of you who are here because of my special request. It's not that much fun talking to a camera, but over the semester I teach personal finance at the University of Houston, and because of COVID, we've all been asked to do virtual classes. And whether it's a live class at the University of Houston or even more so with a client, it's not as much fun talking to a camera as it is to have a face-to-face meeting. But this is the new reality, and I do really appreciate you being here and just taking a listen. So for the next few minutes, I want to show you around BayRock and introduce you to some of the resources we've put together specifically for our monthly fee-based financial planning subscription program. So for the webinar, we're using a platform called Easy Webinar, and we basically have certain features and benefits that I want to point out real quick about the webinar. So if you take a look at the page that I'm showing you here, you'll see that as I'm talking, there are some offers up to the right. So as we go through the webinar, and I'm just going to fast forward here, you'll see different things like polls. There's a place for questions, question box. But mainly I want you to see that you have these offers. At the top right, if you scroll down, you'll see the Get Access Now. So the Get Access Now button is a live button where I can place resources that are hopefully timely. And in this webinar, the WealthCare webinar, I've posted several resources in the webinar that I want you to be able to access with one quick click on a link. So I'll be going over those over the next few minutes. But I wanted to point out also that if you're watching this video on YouTube, because we post all of our webinar and tutorial training videos on our YouTube channel. We've even created a YouTube playlist for the webinar, the WealthCare webinar. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, you will not have access to these resources. So let me go ahead and show you a few of the resources that you will be redirected to once you register for the webinar. And again, you can register very easily. Just go to WealthCareWebinar.com. When you go to WealthCareWebinar.com, you'll be taken to this page, which is the registration page for the webinar. It gives you a little bit of information and also some instant access download links, just to give you a little bit of a taste of what type of content will be available in the webinar. There's also just a quick little video that highlights or introduces the webinar. So again, WealthCareWebinar.com, that's where you want to go to register for the webinar so that you have access to these resources that we're going to go over in the next few minutes. If you were here with me today at the University of Houston Technology Bridge, I would certainly want to show you around the place and give you the grand tour. So if you'll notice there, the video playing is a little bit of footage of our office. And as you can see, the conference rooms are empty. It's a big, beautiful space, and I'm very, very thankful to get to come here. There really is very little traffic here these days since the lockdown, and we're hoping that changes, but for now, this is the new reality. But I wanted you just to see, this is where we planned to do our live workshops. In 2019, at the end of 2019, the Secure Act was passed, which made sweeping changes to the tax code, especially impacting IRA and 401k investors. And so our plan was to do live workshops, educational workshops for clients and prospective clients. Another thing that happened after COVID hit is the CARES Act. So on top of all the changes that came through the Secure Act, then came the CARES Act, which included a whole lot of changes relating to the tax code. So for those reasons, since we're no longer able to do the live workshops, we've transitioned to the webinar, the virtual training. And in this webinar, again, I want to focus you on some of the resources that are available to help you through the financial planning process. So onward and forward. We've made it really easy to register for the webinar. You can go to BayRockFinancial.com, and as you'll see in the header up there at the top on the right, you can click on that link, the cute little logo I designed with the hypodermic needle for WealthCare Webinar. So that's an easy way to register, or you can always go to WealthCareWebinar.com. But I wanted to point out some of the resources that we've put together on our resource page. This is our webinar resource page. And so I wanted to highlight a few of the things that you'll find when you go to this page. You'll see what we do best, retirement tax planning strategies, and that's really what the focus is of our monthly subscription financial planning program. So if you scroll down the page, you'll see that we basically have a menu of items, and these are all resources that will be available to you both in the webinar and after the webinar. If you register for the webinar, you'll receive a series of emails which will include short tutorial videos, and those videos will help you along in the financial planning process. But what you'll find is that the follow-up emails that you receive will point you to resources and action steps that are on this page. So let's take a quick look and do a tour of the webinar resource page. You'll see here that we have listed and provided links to some very important resources. And if you scroll down the page, you'll see links to each of these resources. Again, the Secure Act and the CARES Act have created a tremendous number of planning opportunities. And so that is our focus, at least on this section. It will be a big part of what we are doing with clients as far as financial planning. So you'll see in the weekly webinar, we will be updating these resources. So every week we'll be adding to the resources that are being provided and highlighted in the webinar. We'll do a weekly update, a weekly webinar. But as long as you're subscribed to the webinar, and again, that's at WealthCareWebinar.com, it's easy to subscribe. You'll receive our email series as long as you stay subscribed. If at any time you want to unsubscribe, just unsubscribe, and then whenever you're ready, come and subscribe again or register again at WealthCareWebinar.com, and you'll just start the series again. So the series is designed to help you through the steps of the financial planning process using and maximizing the tools that we've made available at BayRock. One of the resources I wanted to just kind of spend a minute and highlight are these key numbers for 2020. Now, this could be updated on a regular basis, but for now it is up to date, and you can click on the link. If you're watching the webinar, in the webinar, if you registered, you'll see the Get Access button to download the key numbers. Otherwise, when you get your first email, it will take you to the resource page here where you will find a link. And I just wanted to highlight that because it contains all of the important numbers that you can use throughout the year in your financial planning. And it's a great resource to give to your friends, your family, and any of your financial advisors who may not have a quick reference for those numbers. So we put that together. Hopefully it's helpful, and it's a great resource, and I wanted to just take a second to mention it as part of the webinar resource page. I've been in the financial services business a very long time, and over the years I've come to believe that pretty much everybody has a different idea of financial planning. So what does financial planning mean to you? Over the next few minutes, I'll share a few metaphors to illustrate in general terms what financial planning is and how it works. My favorite metaphor is the blueprint. If you're going to build something, you need to have a plan. And the blueprint is really a drawing. It helps the builder and the contractors know what pieces and parts get put together and in what scope and sequence. I never get tired of talking about the blueprint because as a certified financial planner, the blueprint is the best illustration I can imagine for financial planning. Another favorite metaphor is a Chinese buffet. I love Chinese food, and I really love broccoli. Pretty much every Chinese buffet I've ever been to has some form of broccoli. My wife prefers the peel and eat shrimp, so we both get what we want when we go to a Chinese buffet. One of the things that's generally missing at a Chinese buffet is personal service. I don't know about you, but most of the Chinese buffets I've ever gone to are relatively inexpensive. So I don't really expect a high level of personal service, kind of like I would at Carrabba's. When you look at the menu of services at BayRock, you'll see that the blueprint is pretty much on the everyday buffet. Moving forward, you'll see that there are some additional services which obviously have additional costs. The everyday buffet items are available to everyone, regardless of the price level. And as you can see, we have monthly subscription plans starting at $100 a month, $250, and $500 a month. We also offer the standard one-time planning fee, and that ranges from $2,500 to $15,000. But I've come to believe that the best value involves a longer-term arrangement where we start by designing your personal blueprint, and then we get to work building your dream house, as the metaphor goes. At BayRock, we believe every family deserves a quality financial plan, and every plan starts with a blueprint. Every blueprint is personally designed by a certified financial planner professional. So while I offer a great buffet, it's important to me that each client receives the personal attention they need and deserve when it comes to building a solid plan for their financial future. Now, before I forget, I want to mention our quick calendar link, and you can access my calendar anytime simply by going to cfpconsult.com. It will take you right to my Calendly page where you can find an open slot to book our next meeting. It can be the first meeting just to get to know one another. It can be the actual blueprint meeting, or it can be the annual review or quarterly review. Whether you're a client or just thinking about working with BayRock, I want you to see how easy it is to schedule with us. Now, if you're new and you're becoming a client with BayRock, we do ask that you use our calendar link. It just helps us make sure we don't have conflicts and nothing slips through the cracks. So let me just show you quickly how easy it is to use the Calendly link. You simply click on the link and you're taken to our calendar, and you get to select a time. And you'll also notice that we have, well, you don't see any Saturdays right there, but we've opened the calendar to include Saturdays and not Sundays, but we do have openings on Saturdays. So today is actually Saturday as I'm doing this webinar, and you'll see we have a pretty good selection of openings on Saturday as well as evenings, and we expanded our calendar through the COVID event just to make sure we're available to help we do have many more people asking for financial planning. So we appreciate you using our calendar link to make things much more efficient for us, and hopefully really for you as well. So for the next few minutes, I want to just spend a little time and go through each of the elements that we've put together on the page, the webinar resource page, because these are the pieces of the planning process where we're going to ask you to help us. And so I want to just highlight each of the elements and how they work. But I also want to talk about the blueprint, because fundamental to BayRock is the blueprint for financial success. And I want to just show you the blueprint, and we'll talk about it some more in a minute. But this is an actual blueprint that I designed when I became a certified financial planner. And the reason this was important to me, you'll notice it's got a lot of information on both sides. And again, I will go through the flow and the process of the blueprint in a few minutes. But I just wanted to mention that the blueprint and my book, Make Your Money Count, really the process and the plan, the way we do the financial planning process is outlined in the book, Make Your Money Count. And I would love to give you a copy of that if we were here, but you'll see as we go through this page, Make Your Money Count and some of the key chapters that really deal with the blueprint are made available for instant access on this webinar. So let's go through the page real quick, and then I'll come back and talk about the blueprint a little bit more. So here we are on the webinar page, and you'll notice we have an investor portal. And most people hire BayRock for investment management. And we have a fantastic portal that gives you, when you log in, you'll see everything that's available there. But if you're not currently a client, then you can go to the new user. If you scroll down the page, you'll see new user, and you can go there, and it will take you. Now it's taking me to Advise On because I'm logged in currently. That's the partner we have for our investment portal. So if you're an investor and you're not using our financial planning tools, you'll go to top of the page. You can click on that. It'll take you to your login. So if you're working with us with investments, that's where you want to go. If, however, you're looking at starting to do some work on your financial plan with us, then that's where you will go. It'll take you to a different portal, the financial planning portal, and it will initially ask you to sign up and provide a little bit of information, and when you do that, you will be creating your account. So again, at the top of the page at the top right, you can register for the webinar anytime. That will stay there, and it will be updated every week. The webinar will, not the link. So let's scroll down the page and just take another look at the steps. So start here. We are encouraging new clients to start with the webinar. And then you'll notice here we've got the risk, get your risk number. A very important part of the financial planning process is knowing your risk. So one of the things that I do with clients at the very beginning of the process is I help them understand how much risk they're comfortable with, how much risk they have in their portfolio, and what it would look like if we transitioned their portfolio to a different risk profile. So I want to take a minute to highlight not just the importance, but how it works, the risk. I call it the 5-minute risk survey. And in addition to that, we have the client intake form. These are two pieces in the very beginning of the process that we ask every client to help us with. So I put together a little tutorial video. It's a good example of what a tutorial video will look like moving forward as you receive the series of emails related to the webinar, as long as you stay subscribed. So let's take a minute and watch the video, and then I'll come back. It will introduce the client intake form, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's watch the video. It was good to visit with you. I just wanted to send a quick follow-up email with a couple of action items before we get back together, specifically our client intake form. I think we talked about this, but this is what we use to gather information from you so that we can put together a comprehensive financial model to use in our preparation and our gap analysis. So you'll see a link to the intake form in both a PDF as well as an Excel spreadsheet. In addition to the intake form, I've included a link to the Riskalyze survey. So this is what you'll see when you click on the link, and it just takes a few minutes to complete the Riskalyze survey, and it's a very important part of the planning process. In fact, I've put together this short, kind of hopefully entertaining video.
Did you know human beings are twice as concerned about avoiding losses as they are about achieving potential gains? That's the main reason humans tend to sabotage their investment plans, selling when they get scared, missing the recovery, and buying back in when the markets feel safe again. It's all about your risk number, a quantitative way to scientifically pinpoint how much risk you want, how much risk you need to take to reach your goals, and how much risk you actually have in your portfolio right now. The results are remarkable. So how does Riskalyze work for you? First, we painlessly pinpoint how much risk you want. The old way, stereotyping investors based on your age, just doesn't work because everybody's different. You can click on our questionnaire or we can spend a couple minutes on the phone to set your risk target. Once we determine your risk number, we'll set up your portfolio. I'll then use your portfolio's risk number and a 95% probability range to show you what's normal for your portfolio under different scenarios like 9/11 or the 2008 financial crisis. Tracking the risk in your portfolio like this helps you know what to expect in any 6-month period so that you can hang in there even when markets are volatile. Riskalyze is one way we help families manage the risk and opportunity of everyday life, recover from the unexpected, and realize their highest purpose.
So you saw the intake form in that tutorial video, but I wanted to just take another couple of minutes and show you how to download the intake form and how it can help you. So the intake form is available in PDF or Excel, and we found that it's a very helpful tool to get organized. So I'm just going to show you, you have 2 links here on this page to download either form, and if you use the Excel sheet, we can easily turn that into a Google document or a Google sheet that we can collaborate on with your advisory team. But anyway, it's really easy to download. This becomes a great tool for organizing your financial life, and we will take that information, I will take that information during our first meeting, and it just really helps me put in context where you are in terms of your financial life. Now the blueprint helps us do the same thing, but remember in our first meeting, and I may not have told you this, but typically in our first meeting we just get together and get introduced. We don't do much work, we just talk about in general terms to find out whether or not it makes sense for us to even have a meeting. But the real meeting, the first meeting, is the meeting that I call the blueprint meeting, where I start to really construct in my mind and on paper a blueprint for your financial future. But to do that, the intake form is very helpful. Imagine if you went to the doctor for the first time and you had some issues that you wanted some help with from the doctor. The doctor typically isn't going to be able to write a prescription unless he knows a good deal of information about you. So the intake form helps me do that. It helps me gather the right kind of information in order to provide you with really good recommendations. And it makes our first meeting far more productive. So I know when someone asks me for a lot of information, I don't like to give it. And I don't blame you for having the same response. But hopefully at this point you understand why we're asking for the intake form and how it can benefit you in terms of making your time and your financial planning more valuable and more productive. So now I want to take a few minutes to go through the blueprint. Again, the blueprint was designed back in a few years ago when I wrote Make Your Money Count. And as a financial planner, a certified financial planner, I needed a tool. I needed a process that kept me on track. And so I spent a good deal of time and a lot of money working with professionals, coaches, and financial professionals. I also went to the FPA financial planning residency program and worked with some mentors. And over the course of about 2 years, we designed, mostly I invested in and designed the blueprint for financial success. So I want to spend a few minutes again and just highlight how the process works. Because at the beginning of the webinar, I asked the question, what is financial planning? What is a financial plan? So in my mind, this is not just a metaphor. A lot of financial advisors use a lot of metaphors to communicate how valuable financial planning is. But the truth is, most financial advisors are not certified financial planners, and they don't really have a good system to do financial planning. They certainly don't have an actual blueprint that they use to make sure that they're not missing important details. So I have folks ask me all the time, you know, what is a financial plan? How does that work? So I want to explain that over the next few minutes using the blueprint as not just the tool, but kind of the process, the mental framework that I go through, which is reflected in the blueprint. So to start with, as a certified financial planner, there are 7 elements of financial planning. If you Google certified financial planner, or you Google the certified financial planner process, you will quickly find that there are 7 elements of financial planning, and they've all been kind of crystallized into the process that I call the blueprint. So starting with, I'll show you an image at some point if you get a copy of the book. In fact, here we go. There you go. You see the image of a tick with a chain, a ball and chain. It's a free tick, so it's an acronym. When I started as a certified financial planner, I realized that the work that I was doing, that we do as financial planners, is to solve for something big that the client would then hire us to help them achieve. Big goals. So as we go through the 7 elements of financial planning, think of it as a presentation. So the work that I'm going to do, once you start giving me information, I'm going to build a comprehensive financial model that reflects your specific financial situation. But to do that, to make that work, to give you a compelling overview and a clear picture, because just like a puzzle, if you don't know what the picture is on the box, it's going to be really hard to try to put that puzzle together. And so the blueprint solves that. It helps us see together what the big picture looks like. So the big picture for most people, and this is certainly true for me, is financial independence. So the first element of financial planning is actually retirement planning. And retirement planning involves pretty much everything there is in the financial planning process and the elements, which we will go through in a minute. But the idea, this picture, the free tick, it's an acronym for the 7 elements of financial planning: financial independence, risk management, estate planning, education planning, tax planning, investment planning, and cash flow management. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, but I just want to give you a sense of the flow and the scope and sequence that we use when we put together, when I talk about designing a customized blueprint for you. This is what I'm talking about. So you may have heard of this movement called FIRE. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I love that. I love financial independence, and that's why free tick starts with an F instead of an R for retirement planning. Because in my mind, and I think maybe in most people's mind, it's not retirement we're planning for. Like, I am not looking forward to sitting around drinking, well, whatever. That's really not a great life goal, is to just get to the end and retire. But financial independence, that's a whole other thing. So financial independence to me means I don't have to work. I have the option of not working, and that's a really compelling goal for me. So financial independence, retire early, is what the F stands for with this goofy looking free tick. Next is risk management. So risk management is insurance. You can think of everything from your homeowner's insurance to your auto insurance to your life insurance, the disability insurance that protects you if you get sick or hurt and you can't work. Another one is long-term care insurance. 1 in 2 of every American faces this big risk of long-term care. So risk management, which really is insurance planning, deals with one of the biggest components of your budget, which is insurance. So risk management is number 2, and it does involve a lot of relatively complicated stuff, but we make that easy. In the process we go through, we do what I call a thoughtful gap analysis. So in each of these elements that I'm going to walk through with free tick as our friend, each of these elements, we will be looking for gaps. So we'll be looking for gaps in the retirement planning. We'll be looking for gaps in the insurance planning. And I'll do that. We will share resources through your client portal where you will upload documents. I will review them, and we'll make notes, and we'll get together on a regular basis, and we will start to work to close those gaps while we build that dream house using your blueprint. So back to the free tick analogy. So we've got F for FIRE, financial independence, retire early, R for risk management, which is insurance. Next, we have estate planning. Estate planning is simply you doing the planning you need to do to make sure that your assets are protected and that they go to the people you want them to go to. So if you haven't updated your will, if you haven't updated your estate planning documents, that's part of our process. So the first E in free tick is for estate planning. Next is education planning or education funding. You know, I teach personal finance at the University of Houston, and every time I look out into that classroom and see all those students, I know that most of them are there because somebody cared enough to plan for their education. It's a big deal for most people, so it's obviously a big deal for the financial planning process. Next is tax planning. Now, I was born on April 15th. My first son was born on December 31st, and my second son was born on October 15th. Think about those dates. October 15th is the typical due date for corporate tax returns, and April 15th is the due date for most individual tax returns. But December 31st is the last day you can have a child and get to claim the deduction for the whole year. So somehow, somewhere along the line, I came to believe that I should be focused on tax planning. And one of the things we do, in fact, what we do best at BayRock, is retirement tax planning strategies, specifically for IRA and 401k investors and business owners. So tax planning is a huge part of the financial planning process, and the blueprint is designed to make sure that we attend to the important details related to tax planning, especially retirement tax planning strategies. And again, the Secure Act, the CARES Act, these are massive tax law changes and enhancements that have pros and cons, but it really opens up the need for financial planning today more than ever before. So tax planning is the T in the free tick. Next is investment management. Investment management is one of my favorite parts of financial planning. That's one of the reasons I went to work on Wall Street. I went to work at Morgan Stanley for two reasons. One, I wanted to learn everything I could about investment management, and I believed I could learn more behind the curtain on Wall Street than anywhere else. Number two, the reason I went to work on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley is because I believed Morgan Stanley had the best wealth management platform on Wall Street. I still believe that. My goal was to learn as much as I could about that platform so that I could replicate their platform in my own independent investment firm. And that's what is the backbone of BayRock. And that's why we're doing this webinar, is to show you the resources that we've put together in terms of our technology stack. But investment planning is a critical part of financial planning. And it includes, one of the things I like to talk about in my class at U of H, is 4 investment strategies designed to maximize return and minimize risk. And you can see in the instant access right there, you can click and download a chapter of Make Your Money Count where I talk about these investment strategies. In fact, they are, I call it Respect Your Dad, 3 of the investment strategies: diversification, asset allocation, dollar cost averaging. In my class at U of H, I've added asset or portfolio rebalancing, which is just another form of dollar cost averaging. But these investment strategies are part of what make up our tactical investment strategies at BayRock. And so they're a very important part of your financial plan, whether you hire us or do it yourself or hire someone else to do your investment management. It's a very, very important part of the financial planning process, and it is absolutely addressed, as well as the gaps in your investment plan. That's part of the process in our thoughtful gap analysis in the blueprint work that we do together. Finally, after investment planning is cash flow management. So I want to take you back to your portal, your planning portal, and one of the first tutorials we will send you in the follow-up emails that you will receive as long as you stay subscribed. One of the first tutorials I'll send you is how do you link your accounts so that you build a living, breathing budget or spending plan that allows us to take a look at the real live numbers in your financial life, which really helps us not only make projections for the future, but also to manage your cash flow in a way that allows you to free up resources to allocate or reallocate those resources to achieve what matters most in your life. So those are the 7 elements of financial planning. Again, the free tick, he's our friend. I think he's a he. And it's financial independence, retire early, or the old term is retirement planning. Next is risk management, which is insurance. Next is estate planning, which is very important that we keep that up to date. And again, note, Secure Act made sweeping changes, so estate planning is critical in 2020. And it's another reason we're doing this webinar, to not just nudge you, but to encourage you to engage in the planning process. Next, with free tick, is education planning. Next is tax planning. Next is investment planning. And finally, again, cash flow management. So that's the blueprint. That's the process. When you ask me, what is a financial plan? That's a long answer, but that's my answer. The blueprint addresses all of the elements of personal finance. It puts them together in a certain flow and sequence to help you make sure that we're addressing any gaps in any of those 7 essential elements of financial planning. The blueprint for financial success. I hope you'll download the resource, learn more, and let's get started. Let's get working on your blueprint today. Let me take a minute to talk about our special offers. We have currently been offering a special, very special deal. As you can see, again, the $100, $250, $500 per month, along with the services that come with that cost or those price levels. But you can see that our April special was the COVID-19 or coronavirus special, where we waived not only the $500 setup fee, but also the monthly or the 3 months or 90 days of planning fees. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware, especially those of you who are on this first webinar call, that that special is no longer available. It's available until the end of April. So if you have someone that you've thought about or wanted to invite, I really would encourage you to take advantage of that now, because that's going away if you haven't got a signed agreement by the end of April. The new deal, it's still pretty good. You will pay, there's a $500 discount up front, no $500 setup fee, which is our standard fee just to get started. The real change is you will no longer get the 90 days free. Now, in the last billing cycle, we offered that to all new clients, and we also offered it to our existing clients just as a way to say thanks for our trust. But again, the special deal, it's still a good deal. It's a great deal. Sound like Donald Trump. It's a really great deal. It is a great deal. You don't pay $500 for the setup fee, and you can get started right away, but you will be billed on a monthly basis depending on which package you select. Well, there we have it. We've come to the end of our WealthCare webinar, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sticking with me to the end. So again, you can register at wealthcarewebinar.com, and if you register, you'll get to watch this webinar inside of our webinar platform, where you will have access, as you can see, to the resources that we made available during the webinar. You'll also be redirected after the webinar to our webinar resource page, which we've covered in this webinar. And finally, you'll be receiving our series of emails, which include financial planning tutorials designed to help you get more for your money from BayRock. So I hope it's been a valuable investment of your time. And I want to ask for one more final request, and that is that you share this with your friends, your family, and your associates. And one reason I want to encourage you to do that is if you hire BayRock to manage your investments, you get discounts as you have more investments under management. That's typical in any investment firm. I pretty much guarantee that our prices, and especially in terms of the value you get for the cost of services, is unbeatable. And I say that because I know what my competitors are charging, both for investment management and for financial planning. So the value that you get from BayRock is extraordinary. And when you invite your family to participate, what happens is we accumulate their assets and we give everybody a discount for having those assets under one family or one household. So it's one of the many ways that being independent allows BayRock to provide a better value than our competition. So for that reason, I'm asking you to share it. Keep us in mind when you talk to someone who's under stress from COVID and facing challenging circumstances. Sometimes financial planning is a great resource. It gives you clarity, and the clarity helps you have more confidence. And with a good plan, we're committed to help you increase the amount of contentment in your financial life. So please share the webinar and share BayRock with your friends, with your family, with your associates. And until next time, I hope you'll stay subscribed and watch our tutorial videos. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube instead of being a registered webinar guest, please leave a comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the little bell there, and that will give you a notification when we upload new tutorials to our channel and our playlist. Until next time, I'm Jim Munchbach, and thank you for being here.